When you stop contacting a woman, something powerful begins to happen, something that silence alone can initiate. You see, communication is a lifeline in any relationship. It becomes a rhythm, predictable, familiar, almost taken for granted. When you're always present, always calling, texting, showing up, you're part of her daily routine. You're expected. Your words become background noise, even if they're loving, thoughtful, or meaningful. But when you go quiet, that rhythm is broken, and silence speaks volumes. In that space of silence, she feels it. At first, it might feel like peace. She might welcome the quiet, thinking it gives her room to breathe. But give it time. As the hours stretch into days, and those days into maybe a week or more, that silence starts to ask questions. Where is he? Why hasn't he reached out? Did I say something? Did I do something? Or has he just stopped caring? The silence doesn't just echo. It starts conversations in her own mind. Conversations you're not part of, but that are very much about you. And this is where it becomes powerful, because we're not talking about silence as a tactic to manipulate or punish. No, we're talking about silence as a mirror. When you pull away and stop reaching out, you're giving her space, not just space away from you, but space for reflection. And reflection is uncomfortable when someone mattered. The quiet reminds her of your voice, your presence, your consistency. It's in the absence that she starts to notice the weight of your presence, something she may not have fully appreciated when it was always there. Now here's the thing. Many women are emotionally intuitive. They sense energy. They pick up on shifts. So when you stop contacting her, she notices, even if she doesn't say anything right away. She might act indifferent at first, scrolling through her phone, resisting the urge to call, to ask where you've gone. But inside there's a shift happening. Your silence forces her to ask herself real questions. Did I value him? Was I showing up for him? Was I taking him for granted? And in that quiet, if there was a real connection, if your presence carried emotional weight, she will feel it like a sudden chill in a warm room. She may begin to miss the sound of your good mornings, the little updates, the random check-ins. She may realize that what she thought she could live without is actually something she cherished. But here's what's even more important. When you stop contacting her, you reclaim your own energy. You stop pouring into a cup that may not have been pouring back into yours. And by doing that, you start valuing your own time, your own worth, your own peace. You're no longer chasing validation or seeking a response. You're standing still, letting the truth rise to the surface, because it always does in silence. So yes, when you stop contacting a woman, she will do something. She may panic, she may reflect, she may call you, or she may do nothing at all. But regardless of her response, your silence will reveal exactly where you stand in her life. There's something deeply underestimated about the impact of emotional absence. Most people think it's just about not calling or not texting. But when you truly remove your emotional presence from someone's life, especially someone who had grown used to your consistency, it creates a shift that goes far deeper than silence ever could. Emotional absence is not about ghosting or playing games. It's about removing your emotional energy, your investment, your attention. And that absence, it forces her to evaluate something most people avoid confronting: emotional dependence. When you're always there, always ready to talk, ready to solve problems, ready to comfort her when she's down, it's easy for her to unconsciously rely on you. You become the emotional cushion, the steady anchor she leans on when things feel overwhelming. And in many cases, she may not even realize how much she's leaned on you until that support is no longer available. That's the thing. People often recognize value in retrospect, not in real time. When the emotional presence is consistent, it blends into the background like light in the room. You don't notice it until someone switches it off. And when you withdraw that emotional presence, when you stop engaging with her emotionally, when your voice stops being the one she hears when she's stressed or confused or even bored, she notices, not just consciously, but subconsciously. She starts to feel the weight of your absence in moments that used to feel lighter because you were there. Your emotional energy, your consistency, your warmth, they had a stabilizing effect. And when that's gone, the imbalance becomes obvious. This is when the questions start to creep in. Did I misjudge his importance in my life? Was I too casual with his feelings? Was I giving as much as I was receiving? And if she doesn't ask herself these questions, life will. Because without your emotional presence, her experiences shift. That random bad day, she no longer has you to vent to. That big win, she catches herself reaching for the phone and then remembers you're not calling anymore. It's in those little moments, the ones she thought she could handle alone, that the realization hits hardest. And no, not every woman will react with a dramatic change. Some will internalize, keep it all together on the outside, but deep down emotional absence triggers emotional evaluation. Because a woman knows, whether she says it out loud or not, when someone who mattered emotionally is no longer available. She may pretend it doesn't affect her. She might keep herself busy, surround herself with distractions, but at night, in quiet moments, that absence speaks loudest. The power of emotional absence lies in what it reveals, not just about you, but about her. About how she viewed you, about how much of her emotional world included you. If she starts to miss you, if she starts to reevaluate your place in her life, if she starts to feel your absence deeply, that tells you everything you need to know. But if she doesn't, if she carries on like nothing changed, then that silence is also speaking. And this time, it's speaking the truth you need to hear. Because when you remove your emotional presence, you're not punishing her. You're giving her space to recognize the emotional value you brought, and you're giving yourself clarity on whether she truly saw it in the first place. And in that clarity, your peace begins. Something fascinating happens when you break the pattern. When you've been consistent, always reaching out, checking in, being available, and suddenly that consistency stops, it creates a ripple effect, a disruption, and that disruption sparks curiosity. Not the kind of shallow curiosity that comes from boredom, but a deeper kind, the kind that makes her pause and say, wait, what's going on? Because whether she wants to admit it or not, she had gotten used to your presence, your messages, your voice, your interest. Human beings are creatures of habit. We crave routine even if we don't acknowledge it. And relationships, romantic or otherwise, thrive on patterns. You show up, she responds. You call, she answers. You text, she replies, maybe not always right away, but the rhythm exists. Now, the moment that rhythm breaks, it catches attention. That curiosity gets triggered, not because she's necessarily missing you yet, but because something doesn't make sense anymore. Something that was dependable is now absent, and the mind is wired to investigate anything that feels uncertain or unfamiliar. She might not reach out immediately. She might try to convince herself that it's nothing, that you're just busy, or that she's too proud to make the first move. But her curiosity is active now. She starts replaying recent conversations. Was there a change in your tone? Did she say something off? Did she miss a sign? That's the power of stepping back. It puts the ball in her court in a very subtle way, without you having to say a single word. And here's the beauty of it. Curiosity is often the first stage of emotional awareness. When she starts wondering why you've gone silent, it forces her to look inward, not in a forced or manipulated way, but through genuine confusion. If she valued your attention, even slightly, she'll begin to feel the loss. That tiny tug that starts in the back of her mind grows stronger over time. And it's not just about your silence. It's about the unanswered question your silence creates. But she might ask herself, was he upset? Did he lose interest? Is he talking to someone else? These questions aren't just about you. They're about how she sees herself in your world. They trigger introspection. And whether she chooses to admit it or not, that introspection shifts the dynamic. Because now, instead of you chasing her attention, she's chasing answers. You've flipped the emotional equation without force, without drama. You've created space for her to wonder. And when someone starts wondering about you, they begin to remember you, your words, your energy, your kindness, or your strength. They remember the little things you said that seemed insignificant at the time. They reflect on how you made them feel, and that curiosity slowly turns into realization, sometimes even regret. Now, not every woman will act on that curiosity. Some will bury it, deny it, distract themselves from it. But the point isn't what she does, it's what's been awakened inside her. The dynamic has shifted. You're no longer the one giving and giving. You've stepped back. and now her thoughts are moving toward you. That energy reversal is where your power lies. Because when curiosity enters the picture, emotions follow. And when emotions follow, decisions are made. Sometimes that decision is to reach back out, to reconnect, to acknowledge your value. And sometimes it's to stay silent, but even in that silence, she knows something changed. And once she starts asking, why isn't he calling? She's already remembering why you used to. Intelligence has a way of exposing truth. It's in the space between two people that clarity begins to form. When you're constantly in contact with someone, especially someone you care about, it's easy to blur the lines between what's genuine connection and what's just routine. But when you step back, when you remove yourself from the everyday exchanges, something important starts to happen. The dust settles, and what's real begins to rise to the surface. In that distance, she's no longer able to rely on your presence to fill emotional gaps. The attention you gave, the support you offered, the way you showed up, it all becomes visible in a way it wasn't before. Sometimes people get so used to receiving your energy that they forget what it's like not to have it. And when you're always around, they might assume you'll always be. But once you pull back, that illusion disappears. It becomes a test not of love or loyalty, but of value. How much did your presence actually mean to her? Did she recognize your consistency as a gift, or did she treat it like background noise? Distance reveals that answer, because now she's left alone with the echo of who you were in her life. No texts, no check-ins, no you. And that absence forces her to do something we all try to avoid: evaluate. She begins to assess the value of what's missing. Was your presence comforting or controlling? Were your words uplifting or draining? Was your attention a safe place or just another notification on her phone? These questions don't get answered when you're still in the picture. They get answered in your absence. That's the beauty of emotional space. It doesn't need a confrontation. It doesn't need closure. It quietly invites reflection. If you mattered, she'll feel it, not just in the lonely moments, but in the meaningful ones too, the ones she wishes she could share with you. If she was taking your presence for granted, she'll realize it now. If she thought she could do without your support, your guidance, your kindness, now is when that belief is tested. And if she truly valued you, she'll begin to see that clearly, because there's no longer a daily interaction to distract her from the truth. We live in a world that moves fast. People jump from one conversation to the next, swipe past emotions, scroll past meaning, but distance forces a pause. A woman who felt safe in your energy will notice when it's gone. She may not admit it. She may not even act on it right away, but the awareness will settle in her chest like a quiet ache, and that ache carries insight. It tells her that something or someone valuable is missing. And here's the deeper part of this. Distance doesn't just show her your value, it also shows you how she values you. If she reaches out, if she tries to bridge the gap, if she makes an effort, that tells you something. If she doesn't, that tells you even more. And either way, you get your answer without chasing it. So if you ever wonder whether stepping back is the right move, remember this: distance isn't about walking away, it's about allowing the truth to walk in. Because in the quiet, in the stillness, in the absence, what's real becomes undeniable. When you stop contacting her, something begins to happen that even she might not expect. She starts reflecting, not immediately and not always consciously, but it begins. You see, relationships, especially those that once had strong emotional ties, are like mirrors. When one person steps back, it forces the other to look inward. Without your daily presence, without your messages and check-ins, she starts hearing her own voice more clearly. And in that quiet, she begins to ask herself things she may have pushed aside before. She might wonder why the connection faded. She might try to pinpoint the moment things changed. At first, she might even place all the blame on you, painting your silence as neglect. But as time passes and emotions settle, her view begins to shift. Reflection isn't instant. It's a slow unraveling of thoughts, a gradual peeling back of assumptions. And that's when something powerful happens. She starts examining not just what you did, but what she did or didn't do. She may replay conversations looking for moments where she was too cold, too distant, too unavailable. She might start thinking about the times you reached out and she didn't respond with the same energy. Maybe she remembers the time you were emotionally open and she dismissed it. Or maybe she realizes she relied on your presence without offering much in return. Whatever the specifics, that space you've created forces her to confront herself. And the truth is, most people don't like sitting alone with their thoughts. It's uncomfortable. But discomfort is where growth begins. If she truly valued you, if your absence left a mark, she won't be able to ignore the way it makes her feel. That internal dialogue becomes louder. Did I respect his time? Did I nurture the connection? Or did I just expect him to always be there? Did I ever really give, or was I just taking? These aren't questions anyone wants to ask themselves, but they're necessary. And sometimes they're the very questions that bring change. Your silence becomes her teacher. It creates a situation where she's no longer reacting to you, she's reacting to herself. And if she's emotionally mature, that reflection may shift her perspective in meaningful ways. She may realize she didn't show up for the relationship the way she should have, or she might recognize that she let pride or fear get in the way of being vulnerable with you. On the other hand, if she was never emotionally invested, the silence won't trigger much at all. That in itself is revealing. Because a woman who is truly unaffected by your absence was never truly moved by your presence. And that's a truth worth knowing. But in the case where there was something real, something unfinished, something she quietly held onto, this space allows that awareness to rise. And sometimes this self-reflection leads to growth. She might come back different, more honest, more open, more willing to meet you where you are. And if she doesn't, it means she still has work to do, and you stepping back was exactly what needed to happen. There comes a point, after the silence has settled and the distance has done its work, when the truth becomes unavoidable. If she truly cares, she will act. It might not be dramatic, it might not come with long paragraphs or emotional confessions, but it will be something. A message, a call, a subtle like on an old photo, maybe even a random excuse to reach out, disguised as something casual like, "Hey, I just remembered that thing we talked about." It may seem small on the surface, but trust me, if it's genuine, it's intentional. Women are emotionally intuitive. When they care, it shows. Even in moments when pride gets in the way, when fear of rejection whispers, "Don't reach out first," the heart has a way of pushing through. Because caring doesn't just vanish when someone goes quiet. If anything, it becomes louder. It starts to ache. It lingers in everyday moments, in a song, in a memory, in an empty phone screen. And eventually, the silence becomes too heavy to carry. So if she truly values what you had, she won't let it slip away without trying. But here's what's important. The way she acts speaks volumes. If she reaches out, you'll feel the sincerity in her words. There's a difference between someone checking in out of boredom and someone reaching out because your absence stirred something real in them. One feels hollow, the other feels like someone waking up and realizing they didn't want to lose you. When a woman cares, her actions will carry a weight that words alone can't. On the flip side, if she doesn't act, if she lets the silence linger without making any effort, believe that too. Because not reaching out is also a decision. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's ego. But maybe, just maybe, she didn't value you as much as you thought. And while that may hurt, it's also liberating. Because the worst place to be is holding on to someone who wouldn't even look back if you walked away. Your silence, your distance, it served a purpose. It revealed the truth you were too close to see before. But let's say she does act. Let's say she reaches out. That moment, as small as it may be, changes the dynamic. It shows she's not indifferent. It shows she noticed your absence, felt your emotional withdrawal, and chose to respond. And that choice, even if it's just a first step, tells you where her heart truly is. Because when something matters, people fight for it. They show up. They don't stay silent forever and hope things fix themselves. It's also worth saying that action doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes her way of acting is simply acknowledging the connection, admitting her part, or offering a sense of closure. But again, that's still action, it's still care, and it still shows that your presence wasn't meaningless. that matters more than 1,000 empty words said while everything was easy and familiar, because real feelings don't just vanish. If she cared before, she'll care now. And if your absence created a void, she'll feel it, and eventually she'll respond. It's not about playing games or keeping score. It's about recognizing that love, respect, and emotional connection all have one thing in common. They move people to act.